All set?
Set, Bill.
Okay, we're gonna call the meeting to order, and we're gonna start with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a public hearing for the special amusement permit for Bentley Saloon. Do I have any comments at all on the public hearing? This is just a public hearing, asking for input. Yes.
I just have one point of order, and I apologize. Once the public hearing is closed, we're supposed to act upon this. We're going to act upon it under new business or immediately after this,
Oh,
after we close the public hearing. I don't know procedurally how, I couldn't remember.
I think usually
We put it under new business and act it there? Okay, well,
Yeah.
when we get to inclusion of the agenda, we'll have to add that, because I neglected to put it on. We have a variety of other things for Bentley's campground,
Okay.
liquor license permit, and now this as well, so when we get there, we'll have to add it.
Okay. Hearing no comments, then I will declare the public hearing closed. And approval of the agenda, and we will add under new business E, that amusement permit, so we can take it up there. And public forum. This is where any member of the public may speak on an item which is not on the agenda. Okay, so much for public forum. On to approve the minutes of April 24th and May 1st.
So moved. Second?
Motion for made, second, yes?
On the 24th, the 24th?
Both.
Okay.
All right. You made the motion on both?
Yes.
Second on both?
Yes.
And second on both?
Yes.
All righty. All in favor? And I will abstain on the May 1st because I wasn't there. And committee and board reports, nothing there?
Well, I forgot to
Yep.
add, I went to the planning board, took some notes, so I can give an update if you want.
Okay.
Well, this is the April 27th planning board. Couple of pending applications, Bentley's Campground, conditional use, a proposal to expand the existing RV campground. Really, they were just there to discuss a little bit of what was going on, but mostly to kind of let the board know that that they were gonna submit a consent agreement to the selectmen. The other item was Champagne's Energy Parking Lot, with an amendment to the site plan permit. There's a proposal to implement the landscape restoration plan to replace an approved natural buffer along Old Post Road, which was removed during the construction of 41,000 square foot parking lot associated with the fuel storage and distribution facility on a 6.36 acre parcel located at 833 Old Post Road. If you remember, this has been in discussion for quite some time. Back again, so the architect kind of showed a landscaping plan. There a little bit of discussion about trucks backing in instead of driving in, so that the lights don't show into the abutters
Butters property.
property. Really, the buffer that's going in there, per the plan, is 10 times more than what was there before. But there's still some concern from the board on that. They initially came in, showed a plan, the board said, no, leave it alone, don't touch it, and then they went back and did what they wanted to do anyway, and so there was still some resentment on the board about that. But they didn't, I didn't write down, they didn't act on that. No, No, that was the, yeah, they didn't act on that, Phil, did they?
No.
No, yeah, I don't, they didn't act on it at all, I think they wanna do, there's a couple of things that they wanna do, they wanna check, there's another abutter that they wanna check to make sure that it doesn't affect, and then it's gonna go back to the board. Cape Arundel Cottages, request to modify the approved construction schedule for the secondary means of egress of the mountain road. Initially, the way they had this set up was based on phasing. So as they finished, phase one, phase two, might have even been up to phase three, but at some point, when they were done a phase, then they would be required to work the egress. They want to be able to change that because this, from a marketing perspective, it allows them to kind of work and sell other units in the resort. So they wanted to be able to kind of change that a little bit so that they can, it helps them better. They wanted to move some units around slightly. The DEP rules have changed a bit, so it was forcing them for a larger retention pond, so that kind of messed up a little bit where some of the units are. As the way the plan is right now, they would lose 3 units, but they'll come back to the board at some point in time and kind of put those 3 units back in. And the other thing that the board wanted was they want some input from the chief on the issue of occupied versus unoccupied when it comes to the issuance of the permits. They approved the moving of the units. At that point, they kind of jumped to a short discussion on food and trucks. It was getting pretty late, but they kind of basically tabled that, and they adjourned at 10:23 p.m. It was a very long meeting, a lot of it, going over all these different items here. I think the longest discussion was with the Cape Arundel Preserve stuff, and but it dragged on for quite a while, but it was a long meeting. I don't know if you want to add something to this, Phil, you were there.
No, sounds pretty good.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Managers report, MDOT upcoming public hearing.
Yes, just to advise you that the MDOT has scheduled a public hearing on Wednesday, May 17th from 6 to 8 p.m. here at the MLD gym. The hearing will be to discuss the proposed highway and safety improvements for Route 111, which will include the reconfiguration of the new road intersection and installing a passing lane between Old Alfred Road and Drews Mill Road. So I would encourage everybody who wishes to have some way into that public process to be there on the 17th. I had a communications from a resident as a result of them trying to develop their property along Mountain Road. They have discovered that the cost to them to reconfigure the road going into this property and a driveway and the underground utilities that would have to be provided may be cost prohibitive to them. They noticed on our tax maps there was a piece of town-owned property off of Bergeron Drive that abuts theirs. And their inquiry to me was whether or not the town was interested in selling. I responded to them, indicated to them that our process requires us to put any of those types of properties out to bid, and then the town would be up to the selectmen at their discretion to accept whatever bid they feel is in the best interest of the town. But my primary reason to bring it up after the concern was expressed was just to figure out if in fact you folks feel that we should be at a stage now to maybe put some of these tax acquired properties up to bid. And if so, I can move ahead with a list, provide the list to our department heads and other folks that may be interested along with yourselves, and determine which ones we may want to retain or that we don't have any interest in retaining them. this one on Bergeron Drive, we have actually 3 parcels that are right close together there, so I'm not quite sure what our intent may be in the future, but these folks had an inquiry. I'm not sure if they'd be willing to bid on them, and I'm not, I did encourage them to go up there and look at the lot to see if it was easier for them to access into their property if in fact the time did come. So I guess my thought to you would be, if I don't hear any objections, I'll prep and prepare some documentation for your next meeting to look at, and then you guys can give me the high sign as to whether or not you want to put this stuff out to bid.
Can you bring us a diagram too of the 3 lots? I can't, in my mind, get it around the configuration of those 3 lots on Bergeron Lane.
Yeah,
So if you could bring us a,
yeah, one I think is, it's got a right-of-way off of back into a larger piece that almost abuts against the landfill, so there's quite a bit of property there that we do own, so it may be of interest or it may not be, I'm not sure.
okay, good.
I had a contact from the Southern Maine Veterans Memorial Cemetery Association asking for your attendance if you so desire to go to their Memorial Day ceremony at the cemetery on the 29th of May, beginning at 1 o'clock. I told them that I would extend the invite to you folks and consider it done.
Is that Memorial Day?
The 29th, I think it is.
Memorial Day, because if it's at 1 o'clock, that's the same time that Kennebunk's parade is.
Okay.
Okay.
And then a couple other things. I wanted to give you a heads up. I know later on in the meeting we're going to talk about a specific draft consent agreement with Bentley's Campground. But we're working on a couple others at this point. We have a piece of property off of I'm trying to remember what, Senate Road, that had a bunch of violations that we think can easily be cleaned up. It appears that the property owner is ready, willing, and able to work with us. And so we're in the process of developing that consent. Before it gets signed, before we sign off, obviously it'll be back in front of you for that. But it does, I guess it's very good, my perspective, when we have the possible land use violations, that we have the ability to perhaps have a dialogue and have these consent agreements hammered out that avoids us further litigation. As you all know, we don't want to go there, but we had one, this one in particular had, generally there were 2 instances. He had a permit to have his business there, but he was limited to the amount of equipment he could store there. He was over his equipment amount, so he's rectified that at this point, is willing to work with us. And the other piece was the same property. He has a medical care giver's license through the state. Unfortunately, the area that he's trying to do this enterprise in is not zoned for that type of activity. He could, as we've expressed to him, grow his own in whatever facility he has there to do that. He's certainly okay to do that. So it seems like he's going to work with us to solve those issues. And finally, and it's apropos, I guess we have Bentley's here. It seems like our whole agenda will be on issues related to Bentley's or concerns about that. But I had a neighbor who lives off of just off of Campground, the corner of Campground and Limerick Road on Talbot Woods. His concern was not this weekend, the weekend before, an excessive amount of noise as a result of motorcycles exiting Campground Road onto Limerick and heading west on Limerick to go to 111 or wherever else they're going. Anything you guys can do to maybe try to help them? We're gonna try to put up some signs and just have the patrons be very respectful if they possibly can. That would be, and I expressed those concerns to the property owner. he brought up some other things that I think I shared in my email to you, but, we're gonna try to diligently, make sure that those things get done, because we all wanna be, good neighbors.
It was a busy weekend, there were lots of bikes out there.
It certainly was.
And, we might want to also mention to the sheriff that perhaps, and I don't know what they can do about noise. I don't know how they can handle excessive noise. If they sit at the end of Talbot Woods, perhaps if they stop a few people and word gets around that they're watching them, they'll slow down when they're taking off.
Well, I don't even think it has to be, I spoke to the sheriff's office, I don't even think it has to be a stop. I think just an actual presence will, you know, the people who wanna help us and be neighborly are gonna adhere to that. The others, obviously, we may have to stop, but generally, I think most of them are gonna slow down and be respectful.
Well, I know they're respectful when they come out of Bentley's, because I've seen him standing there, and they're very careful coming out of there. They get to the red light and start at the campground road, and as soon as they're out of sight and sound of Bentley's, they open up, and they, yeah.
Well, anyways, just something that we'll be mindful of, and we'll try to help as much as we can.
So I know that we, you know, a few years ago, we put up some signs, you know, for noise, and there's one on a campground road, but is there one, maybe we could put one on the limit road when you know, right when you come out around the corner,
Sure.
just before the crossing for the trail.
That was my plan,
Yeah.
to try to put something there and try to help as best we can. That's all I had under the manager's report.
Okay. Old business, Arundel Street Vendors Ordinance, possible application.
Yes, you have before you, as part of your packet, we had a request through the street vendor ordinance to consider a location and a business to be located there. Right now, presently, the ordinance requires the application be filled out and then reviewed by the board within a 30-day period, and then acted on or modified based on your perceptions, or actually denied. So you have three options available to you. I think one of the questions that we had through this whole, this ordinance thing, and we found that out at our last, 2 weeks ago, which I didn't know, is that the ordinance actually existed. It had been on the books since an annual town meeting vote back in 1996. The current land use ordinance has a section within it to talk about food trucks and food vendors, but it's silent at this point. I spoke to our town attorney, who indicated to me that either or could be defended within the powers of the municipality. So therefore, I instructed the applicant to submit his application, and for you folks to take a look at it and decide whether or not you feel it's complete or you need further information.
I do have a question. So, at some point in time, the planning board is gonna take this up, and obviously they're gonna put some performance standards on here. So what if we grant this, and the performance standards, a vendor does something greater than what the performance standards, is this grandfathered, or would they have to reconform the next time they go for a license? Maybe Tom can answer that a little bit more.
Yeah, we can wait for Tom, but my opinion is what they would have to adhere to the new standards, whatever they may be in the future. Right now, we're dealing with the standards that are in front of us.
Right.
I didn't see that the application provided a length of time that the applicant, that you could award this to. So it could either be a year, it could be 6 months, 8 months. I didn't see it within the application process.
Well, it says the granted license will show an application annual relicensing fee of $100.
Right. So it indicates it's an annual fee. So it would be my assumption that once it was done, and then he comes back, or he or she comes back at a later date and wants to reapply, then whatever standards are then on the books would have to be adhered to.
I just wanna make sure that, you know, it doesn't get into a case where it's grandfathered, and here we go again, now we've got same businesses in the town, and they're allowed different standards, so.
Mhm.
Is this a year-round truck? Year-round trailer?
Not meant to be, no.
What do you,
I mean, anything.
what's your business plan here? How long are you gonna be operating? I mean, you're gonna be out
It's
there?
on my application, I think I put from April 1st to November 1st. But if it's an annual, from the time I get my license, it should be able to go for the following year. If it's granted.
Well, it's an annual license, but, you know, we could restrict the amount of time that you're out there, so it may not be December, November, December, those types of things.
Right, I put basically summer season,
Right.
April to November 1st.
So that's what you intend to do, I guess?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
No, I don't either. All it says is 7 AM to 7 PM.
Yeah.
Right, I didn't see the April to November, but I did see in his, the permission to be using the property at 1654 Portland Road, that his permission is from April 1st to April 1st of 2018.
You're gonna be open from 7 AM?
Well, no, that's what your ordinance says. So I left it as my option to be open at 7 AM.
Oh, are you in fact gonna be open at 7 AM?
Not necessarily,
No.
but if somebody wants to eat at 10 and I'm there, they're gonna eat. But, you know, the idea is to be open for lunch and dinner. So I went by what the ordinance would allow me to do. If I wanted to serve breakfast, I said we could open at 10.
You can modify it, if you feel that further information is needed, you can put it in abeyance until you meet again, but he's here tonight, hopefully we maybe wrap it up as best we can.
Where exactly is this?
Pardon?
Where exactly are you gonna be located?
It is right at the antique store that is next to J Brothers.
It's the end of the campground road, Route 1.
Oh, okay,
It's,
okay.
it's
The
more than
next property.
It's more than 200 feet from the intersection, which is required. I know this ordinance pretty good.
I guess
It's on
so.
Todd's, it's on Todd's property. So what length of time, month to month do you, I mean, I know
My
Todd
intent is
says you
to,
can leave
my
it there
intent
for a
would be
year.
April 1st to November 1st, and then move it and take it home.
Okay, April 1st to November 1st.
Well, it could be October 15th or whatever. If the weather's good, I would go till November 1st.
Okay, because I would like to see that somewhere in the application.
Absolutely, I can add that in.
I think you can modify a motion tonight to recode whatever restrictions that you would like to require
Okay,
upon this, based on the information you have.
So, I don't know, what did you put for? say
April
quickly?
1st to November 1st.
Keith has a question here too. Is this unit, it says self-contained, or do you have water and sewer or electricity coming from
It
the
is
property?
self-contained, but it will have permanent power and water to the unit.
From the property owner that's?
Correct.
From one of the houses there,
No, from the antique building.
from the antique building? Are they gonna clean up that antique building?
That's the one thing I can try to do.
And what about,
That's a different owner that owns the
Yeah.
antique shop that owns the building, so.
and what
We're
about,
certainly gonna keep the front clean.
what about gray waterways, were you planning on moving it and emptying it, or?
Yeah, the state allows me to take it home, so, that is part of the license
Yeah,
when you get.
so you're just gonna have,
Has a holding tank, yeah, and I can
Yeah.
pump it, I could have, septic company come pump it, or however we choose to do it. It'll be taken care of properly.
How big's the trailer?
16 foot, 8 by 16.
So you take up 2 parking spots for the trailer plus truck to haul it,
So that it'll stay there for
unhooked,
the summer, so fun.
it'll stay unhooked from the truck for the
From the
entire.
truck, correct.
Does anybody see, any other conditions that they wanna add besides development before I make a motion?
Sure, that add any more conditions, but, and not for right now, but it would be nice to have seen a diagram of where you'd be located vis-à-vis the intersection and whether you comply with all the setbacks
Yeah, I
that are
mean,
called for here.
230 feet from the intersection.
I'm just saying, a diagram of that attached to this would be helpful.
That wasn't required on my application, or I would have put it in.
I think once it's placed there, we can then go ahead and make sure that it meets the
Yeah.
requirements of the ordinance. If it doesn't, we'll talk to the owner about relocating it slightly so he meets the compliance.
Yeah, that's what happens when we have notice and the planning board doesn't have an ordinance. Yeah,
But a very good idea, and something that you wanna make sure it gets in there, whatever modifications we make, is to have a diagram there.
so I'll make a motion that, we approve this application, with the condition, that it's there from April 1st, 2017 to November 1st, 2017.
Can I say something before you vote? The time restriction is from 7 to 7. Is there any chance of it going later than 7 PM? Not very often you get to go out to eat in southern Maine before 7 PM. I mean, I would certainly open later, that would, I have no reason to open at 7 AM really, but
I don't think we can violate our ordinance,
No.
because that clearly violates the ordinances there. You know, when you look into land use ordinance, sometimes there are a section of land use ordinance that says, you know, these can be waived, and I don't know if we have that in our ordinance.
I think we do.
We'd have to change it. It would have to
This
be
is a
changed before.
standalone ordinance, it's required 7 to 7 at this
How
point.
late do you think?
I was thinking 9, 9 to 10 even. I mean, Gay Brothers is open till 11. Well, the restaurant across the street has the option to be open whenever they want, basically. I mean, I'm not looking to be open at 2 in the morning. That certainly wouldn't be my option.
What did you say, the restaurant across the street?
Yeah, the one diagonal at the antique shop, they can be open whenever hours they want.
They have a takeout, and
Take out, they're not restricted.
proviso, they're zoned through the restaurant. They're not on a wheels, they're not, they don't meet under this,
Different
this
beaches.
section. Correct.
I think for now, if our ordinance says 7 PM, and we should perhaps consider amending that.
Well, I think our hope is that the planning board's going to address this through their ordinance, and then we can have a discussion whether or not that particular ordinance supersedes this, or we have to have some other more definitive town meeting action to sunset one. I'm not quite sure how we'll do that, but I think we leave it with the planning board, and whatever information we want to provide them, we'll provide it to them.
We certainly can have, once they do theirs, we certainly can have two different ordinances.
Correct, I agree.
Either we bring this one in line, or we just completely. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think, you know, it's an ordinance that we can't make those changes. In order to make those changes from 7, we gotta change this whole ordinance.
Well, you're making an amendment from a 1-year application from April to November, so you are making a change.
Excuse me?
I said, you're making the change already by making it April to November, because,
It's a condition, but it's within the confines of this.
yeah, but it says it's a 1 year, it's a 1 year license, so.
But those are the times that you wanted it anyways.
Right, no,
Okay.
but I'm just saying, you're making a conditional change, so why can't you make a time change?
Because I'm violating the ordinance when I do that.
This ordinance was adopted at a town meeting, not something we did. So we don't have the authority to change anything in it. We have to go to a town meeting to change it. So we're hamstrung.
So this year, your trailer, the Health and Human Service tag expires August 19th. So you bring us a new Health and Human Service tag to finish out the year? That's.
Yeah, I mean, I'm required to get one in August, so.
Yeah.
That we can bring a copy to the office. But it also says I have to have an Arundel health inspection done as well, so that should be good for a year.
Did you finish your motion?
Yeah, I mean, we can add that if you want that.
Yeah, that's
Oh, if
fine.
it's a requirement, I mean, I just see it underneath the ordinance, health
Yeah.
inspection.
It's required.
Yeah, I would just, if we put it as a motion, then, under the condition, then it'll just cue Jim to make sure that. Because,
So I'll second your motion then with the additional conditions.
That he bring in the new health inspection in August?
Right.
Yeah,
That
that's
they-
fine.
Okay.
You can't operate without it anyway, right?
You're not worried without?
yeah.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's it working out in Lyman? Is it-
Yeah, it's okay, it's not Route 1. You know, so-
Where are you? I see the address, but I've never even seen your.
It's, where Bouger's RV used to be.
Oh, okay.
He sold that property,
Yeah,
so I've
yeah.
been running
Corner of
that
the
spot.
Kennebunk Pond Road.
Oh, I saw that.
Corner of Kennebunk Pond Road.
Yeah.
Only 2 minutes from my house, but still 111.
Busy road.
Okay, so now he has to come and see you, Keith, and get that
Yeah,
taken
he's
care
gonna
of?
pay me some money,
$100.
and, yeah, I think that's about it. And then we gotta get a health inspection, once you're set up. I'll talk with the CEO, and either he or I will give you a call, so we can make sure that we finish off the rest of the things we need to do, so we can get you up and running.
All right, thank you.
Okay? You're welcome.
Good. Okay. Private field usage information from local Little League.
Yes, if you recall, several meetings ago, we generally had a request to, by a private, from what we gather, from a private non-profit entity that wanted to come in and utilize our ball fields. Because we have for lack of a better term, a very intimate relationship with the Little League, you folks felt it was important for the Little League board to weigh in on their opinions based on that request. Jen has provided to me, and as well as you folks, I wasn't CC'd on it, so I got it late in the game, but in any event, they have expressed their concerns relative to utilization of it by another entity. Unless you have any, strong need for me to go through them, I think it's clear that based on their feeling is that that would be highly problematic for somebody else to utilize the fields at this particular point. We need far more oversight built into whatever we're doing there to ensure that whatever investment that the Little League has made into the fields vis-à-vis the, new, dirt for the infield, any fencing that they put out there, concession stands, any type of activity or money that they've invested there, could be at jeopardy, with somebody else that doesn't have as big of a vested interest in it. Therefore, based on what I see, at this point, I would prohibit any profit-making organization to utilize the ball fields until some other part of this game changes. That would be my view.
I agree, because if the Little League had a game that got rained out and they had to change their game to a Sunday, and that was the Sunday that this company had signed up for to have the field, and then they couldn't have the field, there could be problems. I think if it's the Little League field, it needs to stay the Little League field.
Do we need a motion on this?
Yeah, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we deny the request for the use of the field until we get more input and more ways of dealing with these other teams.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor? Okay.
Thank you.
Final review and signing annual town meeting warrants.
Yes, I've provided new information for you relative to the town warrant. We had some last minute changes that we had to institute into the warrant. I can bring your attention to them. If at the end of our review of this, to meet your muster, I would be searching for some signatures tonight on the original so we can continue to move this forward. But in any event, I think it's article, we had to add an article, I think we placed it as Article 35. And what it entails is, if you remember when we had the special town meeting on the Arundel Cottages TIF, we're required to have a presentation at a town meeting to express whatever financial commitment has been made with the TIF and how much funding has been captured and a report on that. I spoke to Tad today. We made a call up to the state to see if a handout in a off-the-cuff presentation at the annual town meeting would suffice. They indicated it would not, so it had to show up in the warrant. So our plan is, at the annual town meeting, is to have handouts that was similar to the special town meeting warrant. Tad will be there to express opinion as to the value and the way the money is captured and the actual money. I'll have the money totals, so people ask, they'll know what those totals are and what's in the accounts at this time. So that had to be added. The other thing that we did is that we, even though we have no signed, though we're still working on it, though we have no signed agreement with Article 13 with the Arundel Conservation Trust for a purchase and sale on the Limerick Road piece. We're working towards those things. We've reached out to Attorney Dale, who provided Article 13 for us in quite detail. I believe he captured most of the collaboration agreement and encompassed it into the warrant article. So I think it's pretty self-explanatory. And then Article 14 obviously would be asking the townspeople to provide permission to spend $250,000, which would be $200,000 for the purchase of the property and $50,000 for the incidentals for the other design, the septic design, survey, so on and so forth. So That's there. I guess at this point, I think we're moving forward in a positive fashion. I think we're gonna be, we've got a few more weeks to wrap that all up, but in the event that, for some reason, it just doesn't wrap up, I mean, we have the, ability to withdraw those at the annual town meeting, and, move on from there, so.
Should we put a recommendation for Article 13, or that best to leave that blank?
I'm not sure, it's not a money article, so I didn't need to have, it's only gaining permission once it's purchased, and how we're going to divvy up the property, how much the Conservation Trust is going to expend. It's all laid out there, and then we talk about the money in Article 14 with the recommendation from the,
Yeah.
so I think it passes legal muster as written. The remaining articles, all the money articles, obviously, that you and the planning board have already reviewed. We kept, right in the beginning, Article 15 and Article 16, we'll be talking about our police protection, our existing agreement, and the request for additional police protection, and a cruiser if in fact it passes. So we'll get that done early on in the process. Then we get into the regular general operating of the budget, and then finally at the end, we'll wrap up with all the boilerplate articles that we generally have on the warrant. The planning board did provide in this packet backup information to each one of these. As I understand these proposed ordinances, if they appear in the warrant, they have to be signed by you folks, so the clerk has provided all that information here. So if you give the high sign for the warrant, then I will pass the warrant down, and all the signatures that will be required are here.
Your intention, the comments that you've made under each article relative to last year, this year, are you gonna do that perhaps at a handout at the meeting? Is that what you're doing?
What we're envisioning doing, we'll have it as a handout at the
Okay.
meeting, Tom. We're also publicizing, we're gonna put out the arrow.
Okay.
And with the arrow, Act will have an article in there. The town will have its warrant articles with explanations, so
Yeah.
hopefully that helps people. They'll get it far in advance, and if they have any questions, they can give us a jingle.
So I'll make a motion that we accept this town meeting warrant as written,
Second.
dated 5/8/2017.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
I'll pass it along. I have it's in a packet here, so, and I tried to tag every place that you need to sign, so.
All right, while we're doing that, let's start with the renewal of the liquor license for Bentley's.
Yes, in your packet, you have an application for a renewal to a liquor license for Bentley Saloon. They've provided all the required paperwork necessary, along with a review by the code enforcement officer, who has also signed off and approved this application at this juncture. I would entertain a motion to accept the liquor license as presented.
Move to approve.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. You wanna go to the amusement permit yet before we get into the
Yeah,
other?
I think that's the best way to handle it.
Yep. The amusement permit?
Yes, you've had your public hearing, so
Yep.
whatever action you decide to take.
It was on the desk tonight. Looks
I
like
provided to you as a,
the handout.
it was also in your packet, I sent it,
You sent it?
I sent it to you too. It started out with a legal notice to the Journal Tribune about the package. It has a copy of the special amusement permit. And then the conditions that are adopted by the annual town meeting for the permit. It's been reviewed by staff and has a sign off by the CEO for acceptance.
That's the only place on that one. This is different.
Tom, I'm getting good at signing your name.
Good.
Might should be pretty easy, but it's different each time I sign it.
Yeah.
I still don't have that.
Hmm?
I don't have what we were looking for.
Do you need me to send my copy down?
Or you can look at mine.
I don't have it anywhere in that email.
Here's mine.
That's the,
Here's mine.
yeah, this is the original, so I need to have it signed. I believe I need to have the liquor permit signed as well. My apologies. Yes.
Yeah. And that's also been approved by the code enforcement officer.
Yeah, they're good.
It's just that one signature on.
Yep.
Yeah, on the liquor license, you still have to take action on the amusement permit, and I can send that on down.
Okay, the amusement permit.
Make a motion to accept the special amusement permit for Bentley Saloon.
Second?
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded, any more discussion? All in favor? Okay. That's the amusement permit. Get everything else out of the way before we do that. How about appointment of the election warden?
Yes, we have paper here, I'd like to entertain a motion to elect or appoint Doris Tasher as the election warrant for the upcoming election.
So moved.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor? And how about doing accounts payable and payroll and getting them right out of the way?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Bentley's Campground Consent Agreement and Proposed Ordinance Amendments.
Give me a second, you guys are going a little too fast for me. The account payroll and the payroll warrants, what was the motion, the second on that?
Motion, and then Dan second.
Okay, thank you.
I have to learn shorthand.
Yeah, right.
That goes with this. I think it goes with this. Does this state of Maine notice a special referendum election Tuesday, June 13, does that go with?
No, that was just informational purposes the town clerk provided to you just to have. There's no official action on this.
I'm wondering why we had it.
That was the only reason she wanted to provide it to you as informational.
All right, let's move on to Bentley's Campground Consent Agreement and Proposed Ordinance Amendments.
Yes, if I may, I can start. Tonight, I think we have Attorney Klein with us, Bentley Warren's with us, and Rick Light here. As you recall, I think the end of last month, Rick had provided to us a pretty extensive packet laying out some things that they've been dealing with the planning board. In essence, they're looking to expand a proposed campground or existing campground. And in light of doing that, they've been in front of the planning board for several meetings trying to accomplish that. Planning board has indicated to them, because they have a violation on the campground, because the ordinance indicates at this point that over winter accommodations for trailers and those types of things were not required, they were required to be removed at the end of the season. They remain. And so in light of that, the planning board took a position that they couldn't go any further with their application until that needed to be addressed. Rick provided to you, and Bob, I'm sure he had a way in it too, a couple consent agreements for you folks to consider. I think what they're trying to accomplish here is to get the consent agreement signed so they could, in essence, continue to move forward with their expansion project review by the planning board, and hopefully at the end get any necessary approvals that they need in order to get the project off and running. So I think I've hit it pretty well. I'll leave it up to you guys to fill in the details at this point. But in essence, that's where we are. I think they're looking for a consent agreement. They've given us a couple drafts. If you want, I can weigh in on both of those too. But it's up to you.
Okay, why don't you weigh in on both of those?
Okay, well, the first thing I think we have to recognize is the fact that As I spoke to the planner today, the next time that these folks will be in front of the planning board will be after a May 15th date. I believe they're scheduled for May 18th. As a result of that, as of May 18th, they would not be in any violation of any ordinance proposed by the town, because they're past that deadline. No previous notice of violation was issued on this by the CEO, so in essence, we have them that I think, in my view, they may be able to move forward with the planning office now, and the planning board, to go through the expansion of the process. However, that doesn't negate the fact that we have this ordinance on the books that needs to be addressed one way or the other, either tonight to limit them and take care of whatever future consent agreement may be on their particular campground, and or provide a little bit of direction to the planning board to address this issue and allow the board to perhaps come up with some other language that we'd like to get this changed and modified. So that's my feeling. If I'm looking at these consent agreements, I have to say I don't like consent agreement number 2. To that, I felt that consent agreement number 1 would give us a little bit more ability to talk about. I can talk about number 2 a little bit. To me, it sort of felt, I sort of felt by looking at this one, guys, was that that we were looking really to try to force the planning board's hand in this consent agreement. And that was the feeling I got when I looked at it. I didn't think that was a reasonable way to do it. I thought consent number 1 would have been fine, and then the other, in my view, the other thing that you had available to you was a petition warrant article process. In fact, you wanted to do that, and then bring that forward through that. That would require the board within 60 days to have a special town meeting and enact that, or have some, not enact it, but have some discussion with the townspeople as to whether or not they wanted to do that. So those are the things that I saw. I'm not quite sure where the board is in terms of all of it, but that's where I am once I've looked at this and tried to.
You did earlier indicated that as of the next planning board meeting, there will be no violation. Is that right?
Correct.
Because it's in season, we're in season again.
So your application should be able to be acted upon in the ordinary course at that point in time, right?
One would think.
Okay.
One would think.
So why do we need this at all?
Through the chair, if I may? Madam Chair.
Chair's over there.
Yeah, Rick Light.
That's okay.
Yeah, I realize that. Madam Chair. Rick Light, Light Environmental Design, and Bentley and Bob Klein. Part of the issue is we sort of use this as a term winter storage. I mean, the ordinance actually allows you to stay there all winter if you'd like. Problem is you gotta move it every 2 weeks. It's kind
The
of
ordinance
crazy.
doesn't allow you to do that.
Yeah. Well,
The
anyway.
ordinance said you can't store them.
Can't store them, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm talking about the units, not people.
Oh.
So, see, I think theoretically, you're right, we could, if you go to May 15th, you've got 12 weeks, you're good to go for the summer, essentially for the summer season, or a good portion of it. And then, but the problem is, I think, the ordinance itself, this thing's gonna come back and bite us again come fall, if the ordinance isn't changed, or we don't work together with the planning board and the selectmen to change the ordinance in the meantime.
But this board were to sit at the planning board, we take a look at this in the ordinary course, okay? Not putting any time deadlines, as Keith has indicated, I think is unreasonable as well. Say, we can direct the planning board to take a look at it, and I'm sure that they're gonna get to it before November, or whenever the date that the current ordinance calls for. And then if you've got a petition, so you've gotta bring forward, as Keith has indicated, and we've gotta have a town meeting for it to be active, in choice.
And I think we laid out both, and I'll let Bob speak, but we laid out 2 options. One is the citizens initiative, but the more workable solution would be to work through the selectmen and planning board in a collaborative process to come together and come up with language that everyone's agreeable upon. I think that's the course we'd like to take.
The only problem with not using the citizens initiative is that the planning board could take their time.
Right.
Okay,
We're
you
aware
want
of
to
that.
obviously move things forward.
Right.
So that's the benefit to doing that for you.
So we could, as a board, though, Tom, we could
we could give the planning board a timeframe if we decided we wanted to, right?
I don't think so.
No?
They're an independent board, they can tell you what they want. We can ask them, that's what we do,
Right.
is to look at the issue. I
Right.
mean, they may decide that they like it the way it is, for all we know. And that's their recommendation, or still want limitations on whether you can store there over winter or not. I wouldn't be in favor of doing that, so.
I think we can ask them, I think that's a reasonable.
I mean, before give it their attention so it can be acted upon before your next shutdown date,
Yeah.
is whatever it might be. I mean, in my experience on this board, and I've sat in Bob's chair before other boards and other communities, these are usually used for the code violation as a product of a mistake, something, somebody didn't measure a setback correctly and you can't fix it because you got a permanent structure. Technically here you could fix it because you could move these things. I've never really seen any consent agreements that puts more obligations on the community to do stuff than the alleged violator. I don't wanna seem like I don't think it's unreasonable to take up this issue, given the fact that we've got 2 other campgrounds in this community that are not under the same restriction that you are.
Right.
I don't think
Can
that's.
we address it kind of in 2 parts, if I may? Ben, speak up if I'm not getting this straight. One is I think we're a little concerned on the conditional use permit status right now, which is there was some pushback citing the Town of Arundel Board of Selectmen policy, which, as you know, it reads pretty generally where a violation has been identified. So I guess Mike, speak, Tom, lawyers are hyper-technical. My concern is that the planning board can still say, we've identified a violation. So I guess in that regard, our thought was, at least to get us to the stage where at least we can proceed with conditional use permit application and let the planning board act, is it would be helpful to have consent agreement in that regard. And that's, so I'm sort of dividing that. The second part, I take your points, which is maybe this goes further than the Board of Selectmen is comfortable, and we can certainly address that in a different way. I don't think we have any problem with that. But I think that first part is something we probably need.
I wouldn't have any problem with a consent agreement that said, by the way, identify a violation, usually you admit that there's a violation. And usually there's a financial penalty of some sort that goes along with that, depending upon how egregious the violation is. And then this board says, we're not going to seek any further enforcement under the ordinance or through the courts for that violation. And we would forbear in doing that until the ordinance can be addressed.
Okay.
I mean, I could live with that. But I don't want to put these.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think to the chair, that's agreeable. And we're looking to work, in a collaborative process with the planning board. And there seemed to be indication, I can't speak for the board, of course, but my takeaway from the last meeting was there seemed to be indication from at least some of the board members that, yeah, this is something we need to fix. And hopefully we're reading the tea leaves right, and we work collaboratively with them to come up with an ordinance that works. And it works, they're just trying to come in compliance with the industry. It's not something that's unique to this town. Let's get it to work so that the RVs and recreational campsites are operated like any other, like they are within the industry, period.
So that's the second part.
Right, that's your argument before the planning board or
Right,
public
right,
hearings and those types of
exactly,
things,
right.
correct, yeah.
So let's do a scale back, we'll do a scale back. You want to take you want to do a motion tonight so that you have you're authorized, subject to your reviewing it, Keith, that we give you a revised consent, and you tell us what the terms are of it? Does that make sense? So we don't have to come back? That would be helpful to us, please.
That's fine by me. I'm only one member here, I'm speaking for myself, what I thought was the appropriate way to address the issue without going as far as this thing did, but, and I don't know what the other board members think about that, but, I would certainly be amenable to voting that we would approve a consent agreement with identifying we got a violation here, I think the nominal penalty of $100 or something like that, you usually see in these types of agreements, and that the board will, based upon this agreement, will not seek to enforce for the violation or seek any further penalty for the violation until such time as the ordinance, if it isn't changed, then you need to comply with it, but if it's changed, then you're good.
That's what we're asking.
Yeah.
I think that's, you got it in a nutshell.
And can we have that one piece too, with, at least on the planning board, as far as the board of selectmen is concerned, that there's no reason to be hung up under the old policy?
Well, it says,
Consent
once there's a consent agreement, they ought to be good to go.
I understand.
Yeah. We'll entitle it consent agreement.
I get it. That'd be helpful for us.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Do we need a motion to approve that and have Keith sign, to have Keith sign it when it comes in, or?
I think the board's got to sign that, don't you
Yeah.
agree, Bob?
I think the board has to sign.
Yeah, so once it's here, we're gonna have to take a look at it. I don't know if that would mean that we'd have to have a quick meeting to review it, or whether or not, let's look at the scheduling here, so we don't hold you guys up.
That's the next step.
Can we approve that tonight and subject to us agreeing with the consent agreement that's going through? They can start rolling?
That's what we're gonna do, Phil, but we got a planning board and we wanna see our signatures on something entitled a consent agreement.
Right.
Yeah,
I think.
we can't agree on it without meeting as a
Right.
board.
Yeah.
Right.
We either could meet, I'm out of the office on the 10th and 11th, so the beginning of next, we could meet on Monday, the 15th. If it's an off meeting for us, I'm trying to think if I had anything else scheduled for that. No, we can meet on Monday for, we can hold it in a very brief meeting. Yep, the town
Hold it
hall.
in
to
your
look at the
office at the
consent-
town
yep.
hall? What time?
Well, what's good for you guys, 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sooner than that for me.
Yeah, Dudley?
Could we, cross it out and initial it and just give you the part that you seem comfortable with, and then would that be all right or not? That way you wouldn't have to come back and do
There's an awful
special.
lot of crossing out, so,
Really?
yeah.
You'd have nothing left to see.
Yeah, and,
What are we ready?
like, 'cause in here, you wrote something about
If we get something,
there is no
we'll plan on meeting
violation.
next Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up for you guys. I'll be in contact with Rick or you, whatever you guys
Sure,
want.
That would be great.
And as soon as you give me the information, I'll get it to them,
Yeah.
get back to whatever comments they may have individually, and I'll share it with you folks, and then we'll get a consent agreement that we all can agree to and get it wrapped up on Monday.
That would be wonderful. That'd be
Okay,
awesome.
great.
Through the chair, the precatory, the sort of the precatory language, the whereases, are those okay in terms of setting it up? I took the most time on that part.
Illegally.
So you don't have any problems with the first recital, the second one, the third, whereas and reference? The fourth one, we probably don't need.
Oh, not the fourth, okay. Right, because that's hidden in the plan.
Right.
Okay, we got it.
Yep.
And through the chair, if town manager, if he could talk to Tad, or just communicate with Tad, we'll be emailing you, but just to let him know this is the lay of the land, and so he can prep it. What we like to do, just the planning board side, is allow Tad time to prep the findings of fact. We're in anticipation of, I can't tell the board what to do, but next Thursday, anticipation of what we think we're at a point of approval.
Okay.
That would allow Tad the time to move forward with the findings of fact and be prepared for that meeting, if the board chair directs him to do so.
I'll certainly express that to him tomorrow.
We need to express that to the chair,
Thank you.
Yep,
because he sets the agenda.
yep,
Yeah.
we'll make sure that gets done too. Yep,
Great, thank you.
thanks,
We'll get
guys.
it down to you
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Any other business?
Still adjourned.
Oh,
Yeah, before we adjourn, you folks that came in, it's great that you're here. Is there anything that we need to do with you tonight? Is there anything that,
No, we were just here to listen.
Okay, great.
We're abutters of the campground,
okay,
so we'll
All right.
attend the next planning board meeting
okay, thank you.
for the finding of facts. Thank you.
all right.
Second.
Motion's been seconded?
Sure, yeah.
All in favor?
Thanks, guys.
Camera?
Sorry.
Thanks, everybody. See you, Jack.
Can you email me those warrants?